what is racial profiling?
It's a discriminatory law enforcement practice in which a person's race, and particularly people of color, are targeted for enforcement action under this assumption that they're more likely to be engaged in criminal activity. It becomes most apparent in traffic stops, where pretty much everybody's violating traffic laws. I think it's almost impossible to drive legally, and so what that means for a police officer is you can stop anybody who actually obeys every speed limit. How aggravated?
I do. I never exceed the speed limit.
Think about it. If you're on a kind of a main thoroughfare, it's not, going through town, and someone actually drives 30, and you can't get by them. No, it's aggravating, isn't that? We all want to drive a little faster than the speed limit. So the point is that police have this really unfettered discretion to stop anybody, and so that discretion, in some cases, is abused, and it's used to target people of color, under this assumption that they're more likely to find some evidence of criminal activity. It was very predominant in the 80s and 90s into the early 2000s. It became a very public issue in law enforcement. It's being addressed. It has been addressed fairly effectively, but it's still an issue. Not nearly as bad as it was, in my opinion, back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. And so it's a form of discrimination.
And is that not just with color, but how about the car you drive? You see that car that's...
that's a form of profiling, but it's not illegal.
Right.
So if I'm a cop and I don't like, red
Corvettes.
Red Corvettes, and I want to stop every red Corvette that's violating a traffic law, that actually is considered reasonable under the Constitution, and it doesn't violate your equal protection rights.
Okay.
So, but it's kind of silly, isn't it? I would think it's an inappropriate waste of resources. And if I'm your supervisor and I'm looking at your tickets, it's like, wow, you wrote 20 speeding tickets this month and 15 are for red Corvettes. Knock it off.
Right. Okay. So explain to me explicit bias.
So, bias is just it's either a favorable or unfavorable opinion about a person or a thing based on its classification. So when you talk about bias, you're talking about this opinion that you have. It could be conscious or unconscious, that because, let's say, a person is of a certain race or occupation or age or lives in a certain neighborhood or drives a certain car or maybe has tattoos, whatever it is, because you're in that classification, you have these characteristics. And where it impacts racial profiling and discriminatory enforcement is that there is, and it's been documented, that there is this implicit bias that most Americans have, that people of color are viewed negatively or not as trustworthy or to be viewed with suspicion. It's not a conscious decision. It's not something that you may not, by definition, you're not even aware of it, but it does affect your decision making. It does affect.
Watch Inspiring Careers weekdays, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 4:30 and Saturday at 1:30, or anytime from our website, www.accessfram.tv, or anytime from Ingrid Centurion's YouTube channel.